Want to become an expert salesperson? This book will tell you how. That's if you believe a convicted felon whom was a good salesperson. You may have seen the film Wolf of Wall Street. It's the same thing, hence the title, Way of the Wolf. Become a master closer with Straight Line Selling by Jordan Belfort. The main thing is that there's 3 10s when it comes to selling. First is the product, idea or concept. The next is you. Do they trust you and do they connect with you? And finally, third is that the prospect must trust the company that you're connected with. And that's why it's actually so much easier to sell to people that you know or existing customers to that firm, because they've got a relationship and already they've answered some of these 10s. Now each 10 is not simply a binary thing, it's a scale. And when you're selling something, you can move people up and down the scale and make sure that you're focusing on uncertain prospects, trying to convert them into certain prospects who want to buy. Remember, the prospect, the person you're trying to sell to, always has their preconceived ideas and their notions about you, the product and your company. And you may need to balance these out to try and get them to buy. Remember, people think in selling both logically and emotionally. So when you've got a buyer, you're trying to move them to the emotion of wanting to buy. And it's essential to try and future pace their emotions. So make them think how good it'll be when they have this thing. How would they feel when they've got that? How great it is. Some worries may have gone away. And that's the way of trying to get them to think about good feelings that they would obtain from this product. The key is people buy on emotions and then they use logic to justify why they have bought that. The book refers to a straight line. So this is really the process of selling that the author recommends. The front half of this is that you need to take immediate control. You must engage with massive intelligence gathering while simultaneously building massive rapport with your prospect. And then you must smoothly progress so that you're building absolute certainty in their mind about each of the 3 10s. And use persuasion to lower their threshold of taking action and buying something. The first 4 seconds of the encounter are extremely important because you want to be perceived in the correct way. You need to appear sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and crucially an expert in your field. And those things must come across in the first 4 seconds, otherwise you're in with an uphill battle. For example, if you're going to buy a car or a computer, are you going to deliberately choose a novice or are you going to go for the expert? The book has a lot about neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, in part because the author is a master of NLP. And there's a great hack for anchoring. Now, anchoring allows you to feel in a certain way by performing steps so that you can then trigger an emotion. So I'll talk you through his hacks on olfactory anchoring, olfactory being the nose and the smells you get through this. So firstly, you need to choose the state that you're wanting to anchor. Now in sales, this is often the state of absolute certainty. Then when you set the anchor, you want that very specific moment. And then he says you take out a boom boom, which is some kind of nasal spray. So when you're feeling that, you unscrew it and you take a massive blast up each nostrils. Put your hands and your fists tight so you're digging your fingernails into your palms and yell out the word yes in a powerful yet controlled manner. 10 seconds later, take another scent of this boom boom, which is still lingering in your nose and your olfactory senses, and then the initial rush is gone, so you're repeating that, and you're trying to anchor that state of absolute certainty. Now, over the next coming weeks, what you can do when you get that state of feeling, oh, I'm feeling great now, I've made that enormous sale, that's when you do the same thing again. You get your fists, you squeeze them, and you take a scent of this bomb nasal spray. And that way you stack the trigger. And then it means that you're building on this so it's even more powerful, so that the anchor's firmly locked in. Then, when you actually want to feel that way, you can simply do the same thing. Yes, take that sniff of the bomb, and then you're actually going to recreate that state in how you feel. You'll hear a lot in sales about qualifying a prospect, and that's really a method of seeing if the prospect actually wants the thing and has the financial capacity to pay for the thing. But the author very much says don't call it qualifying a prospect. Instead, what he calls this is the straight line, getting straight to the point of the benefits. And when you turn to your prospects, you want them, to be qualified, and they're the ones that you want to be spending time with. The best type of buyer is somebody who is already looking to resolve a problem or make a purchase, and they've got a will to support that, i.e. they've got money or a budget and they've got a problem to solve. The second best type of buyer is somebody who is aware of something to solve. Perhaps they have power, i.e. they control the finances, but the actual problem isn't affecting them on a day-to-day basis. So although they've got the power and the potential to solve something, they may not have as much inclination to do so as the best type of buyer, which the book refers to as in-heat buyers. But what you certainly don't want to do is spend your time on time wasters. There's 4 telltale signs that you could be, in fact, dealing with a time waster. Firstly, they'll ask you lots of questions which they already seem to know the answer to. Second, they'll try and kick the tires of what you're selling, and almost to the point of over-kicking it. And then the third point is they'll let out lots of oohs and ahs and yups to reinforce the point that they're genuinely interested. And fourth, perhaps most crucially, when it comes to finances, they'll either appear really overconfident or unnecessarily vague. And it's important to be hypervigilant to these people and weed them out as quickly as possible and move on to other potential prospects. It's important to have a good script, and you also want to sound like you're not reading it. Script shouldn't be front-loaded with all of the benefits at the start, because then you've got nothing to bring in powerfully towards the end of the sale to try and get the person to take action and make the purchase. But remember, you need to focus on the benefits, not on the features. It reminds me of the Apple story with Steve Jobs bringing out the first iPod, and he said 10,000 songs in your pocket. That shows what it does. If he had just simply said the capacity of it, nobody would have cared. Your script selling must have stopping off points. These are crucial, because if you just give a powerful statement and another powerful statement and another powerful statement, they'll have all blended into one and lost that power. So a well-written script will have stopping off points, and then it'll allow you to interact with the prospect, continue to gain rapport with them, and make sure that they're on the same page as you. You may want to say, "Makes sense," You follow me so far? Are you with me? And then this also makes sure that they understand the benefit that you're trying to give to them. When you're making a sales script, make sure that it's actually written in conversational English rather than perhaps written English, because it wants to come across in a casual manner, using layman's terms rather than a formal or very technical script. In other words, you should read it as if you're completely natural, and it must flow perfectly. So here's an example of an introduction script and a bit about it. Firstly, you start off by greeting the person, let's call him Bill by the first name, quickly introduce yourself, state your first and last name, the name of your company and its location. Ask Bill how he's doing today, but you need to do this in a positive, upbeat tonality with a hint of bolted enthusiasm, stepping around the edges. How are you doing today? Remind him you spoke a few weeks or days ago and that you emailed him some information about it. Don't ask if he actually received it, because he may not have done, and that gives him an easy way out of the conversation. Instead, ask if it rings a bell. Then explain that the last time you spoke, that he'd asked you to call you if you had a great investment lined up, and this has just come across your desk. If then Bill says no, act a bit surprised, but just say, oh well, you get lots of calls each day and lots of emails, and in fact you may not remember, but remind him that he did ask you to call you when you had a good investment opportunity. Then continue back to explain that it's just come across your desk, and if he's got 60 seconds you'd like to share the idea with him, and then say, got a minute. Then you go into your sales pitch, and in the sales pitch, remembering that over time you can change the amount you're trying to sell to them. So typically what these brokers would do, they'd start with a high offer. The second time they'd maybe say half the number of shares are available, and they'd play up the benefits a bit. So you've got a kind of jab in that you're playing up the benefit and reducing the cost. And that may be a powerful way of actually making them purchase. However, if it doesn't work the next closing attempt, you're going to reduce the cost to them further and further until perhaps the fifth time is the minimum amount you can actually sell to them. Prospects will put up objections. Answer truthfully the first one and overcome that, and then go back to your sales straight line prepared method. What you may find, they'll put up another objection and another objection and another objection. At that point, don't answer them. Instead, loop back in to the sales pitch, because then what you can do, you can go back into the sales pitch and point out a great benefit for them. So you're actually then building up the level of desire and making them think that this is something that they need even more. So they may keep asking questions, but you'll be looping back into your pitch with relevant advantages and not directly answering the subsequent questions. What you want to do is empower the person to make a good buying decision, and something that you make them think that they want. And that's where this straight line comes down. You've got your desire, but you've got loops that go on, in which if they ask something, you then go back in and put out the benefits again that are relevant to them. And when you've done your intelligence gathering with them, you've often worked out what the pain is for them. And when they mention their problem or their pain, initially listen and then perhaps try and subtly ramp it up a bit to show what a big problem this is to them. Then when you come into the final close, simply mention the pain again. And if you can throw that in, that will really prompt them to want to take action. And then quickly reselling the 3 tens using concise yet very powerful language will really push them. And that's what they call the action threshold. Pushing the prospect over a line so they take action and buy. So I'd like to push you from your action threshold now. Comment below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.